Hi there. Welcome to Lesson 7, Homeschooling Styles. The different styles and methods of homeschooling may be something that you are already familiar with, or maybe only slightly familiar with, or maybe you didn't even know that there are different styles. I have put a cheat sheet for you in your planner that gives quick explanations for each style or method, but we are going to spend a few minutes going over the characteristics of each one for you now. Similar to the learning styles of your child, don't stress about choosing a certain style right now if you are unsure. I would say that I have dabbled in most homeschooling styles at least a bit, so our style is pretty eclectic. We kind of go with whatever works in any given season and subject. But there are definitely pros and cons to each style, and it's something to keep in mind and be familiar with as you move forward. One style may become more appealing to you as your child ages. So let's take a look at these overviews. First is the traditional style. This is the most common style that most new homeschoolers start without often even realizing it, because it basically is mimicking school at home. When beginning teaching our kids at home, it's sometimes hard to imagine doing it any other way than the conventional school system. Especially if your child has already been in public or private school, it's our natural inclination to recreate that environment. So the traditional method often has a room in the house acting as a classroom with desks or a table. Most of the learning takes place in workbooks, tests, and structured lesson plans. Homeschool parents often grade their children's work in this method. They create a structured schedule, and they run their days much like you would in a public school classroom. Although I know some homeschool parents that stick closely to this model and enjoy it, I would say the large majority of parents that I speak with end up getting frustrated by the traditional style. And I think there are some valid reasons for this. First of all, this model was designed for a classroom inside a conventional school filled with many children and one teacher. Tests and grades were meant to be an easy and fast way to assess a child's understanding of a certain concept or subject, and there is rarely much time for learning outside of the classroom. So children are meant to sit at their desks for most of the day and read, write, and listen to their teacher. As a homeschool family, you are in a very different situation. You may only have one child or a handful of children. You have the freedom to take them wherever you'd like throughout the day and bring them into the kitchen or the garden to learn alongside you. You create your own school hours, and you are not tied to the rules of the public school system that says that you must follow a certain curriculum at a certain pace. Skipping or repeating lessons is usually not something you have the luxury of doing in conventional school or this traditional method. The pros of traditional schooling is that it does provide structure and a guideline. And many families utilize online programs, which creates flexibility for both the child and the parents if they have a busy work schedule or other daily commitments. The other end of the scale is a term you may have already heard called unschooling. Strict unschoolers follow no structure or guideline and rely mostly on child-led learning. Their days are mostly filled with experiences and activities that relate to their child's interests, and they almost never include assignments or any sort of curriculum. I do see many families incorporate values of unschooling into their education, such as prioritizing their child's interests and leaning into that. It's also helpful for a kinesthetic or very hands-on learner to be able to experience new concepts as often as possible. However, it is a bit more rare to find a family that sticks very closely to this method, as it lacks structure, which can often leave people feeling lost and confused. And the lack of accountability and guidelines can be a bit unnerving, especially when homeschooling is new. And speaking for our family, it's necessary to sometimes sit down and work on something that my kids are not interested in at all, like math facts, but that I know is an important skill for them to have. So feel free to take whatever pieces of that you like into consideration and throw away the ones that you don't. Unit studies can be a really fun way to learn. It means taking a theme or topic and letting that dictate the way you learn all of your subjects. Unit studies can be purchased as a set, or you can create them yourself based on a theme or topic that interests you and your student. So if your first grader loves dinosaurs, you could decide to pick up all of the books you can find at his reading level about dinosaurs. You could use those books to work on grammar, spelling, writing, reading comprehension, sounding out the words, etc., etc. You could find a book on paleontology for science and get all of those cool dinosaur science projects you could find. You could study paleontologists through the years, which dinosaur fossils have been found in which countries, and so on. Many parents will spend 6 weeks or even the whole year on one theme depending on how it's going, and then switch to another theme like the Civil War, mammals, Australia, Legos. The list is really endless. It is fun to watch children make connections between topics, but some people do find that this method can miss the idea that certain subjects can build on each other. So it can also turn out to be a lot to come up with the next theme and make sure that you have all the resources. So consider those aspects as well. Montessori was not designed for homeschooling specifically, but more for the classroom environment. However, there are values and principles that many parents connect with. Using childhood psychology, it focuses mostly on hands-on experiences. So most Montessori teachers are trained specifically for this approach. So you could either get trained or translate those values and principles into your own homeschooling. One thing to note is that this method is mostly designed for younger children, and you will probably need to switch gears as they grow. Charlotte Mason is a homeschooling approach that's built on a Christian worldview. It focuses on classic literature, memorization, observation, and a lot of nature studies. Scripture reading is a large component of it, so there's a strong emphasis on beauty and enjoying that beauty. Some challenges are collecting enough books to support the curriculum since there is such an emphasis on reading good books. Observation and nature studies also demand a large amount of time outside, which could be a challenge based on your location, your climate, and things like that. As I've said before, feel free to take the aspects you like and include them in your own homeschooling and just do away with the parts that you don't. The last style we will cover is the classical style of education. Our weekly co-op that we are a part of focuses on classical education, and this is actually a picture of my daughter dressed as a medieval princess and giving a presentation. Classical education focuses on methods that originated with the ancient Greeks, actually, and emphasizes the skills of grammar, dialectic, and rhetoric. So to put it a bit more simply, students practice the skills of memorization and collecting data. They learn how to think critically about that data and then explain and communicate that data clearly. It can be work heavy for some, but it also is highly customizable if the workload is too intense for you or your student. It is also not a hands-off approach when it comes to you as the parent. There are many pieces of it that your student can complete independently, but it will probably not fit with your lifestyle if you are needing more of a student-led plan for your homeschool days. So hopefully you have a better idea of all these different styles. I would encourage you to do your own research and explore any of the styles that piqued your interest. Think carefully about what stood out to you, what appeals to you, and what sounds like something that would definitely not fit. Again, there is no need to commit to one particular style. You can incorporate the various focuses, principles, and methods however you would like. So this is the end of Lesson 7. I'll see you over in the next lesson.